Hello and welcome to today's session. Appreciation is in the air. Show AmeriCorps members you care. Thank you for joining us today as we discuss different ways, hopefully some new and some innovative, that you can thank, appreciate, and motivate your AmeriCorps members. Each individual has their own story, and each story contains its share of difficulties and challenges, especially when consolidated into a short 365-day span of time. In this year, with so many things going on that are impacting people's lives, we really want you to think about ways to show your AmeriCorps members that you care in person and virtually. I'm Eric Powell, and I'm an AmeriCorps Vista training specialist at AmeriCorps headquarters in Washington, D.C. I proudly served as a Vista in 2006 and a Vista leader in 2008. And during today's presentation, I will share a small snippet of my story when I was a Vista member and a few things that made me feel appreciated and valued that may help you in your Vista project. I will also be hosting and facilitating today's large group discussion, along with chat activities and the live question and answer session at the end of the session. Looking at today's agenda, we're going to start with a brief welcome to AmeriCorps Vista. We'll talk about the definition of appreciation and how that applies to what we're talking about. We'll then highlight a couple of challenges and solutions because we know that people do encounter difficulties and we want to figure out how do we overcome them. We'll then break out into small groups to allow you to discuss in depth and really share with each other innovative ideas as to how you can appreciate your members virtually and in person. We'll conclude with tips and recommendations, providing you some resources, asking you to complete an evaluation, and we'll have some time to answer your questions. Welcome to AmeriCorps Vista. Okay, your welcome to your members absolutely must be more than just iterating those few words. But take a brief minute to think about what goes through an AmeriCorps applicant's mind as they search for opportunities and submit their application. Many of them are motivated to apply and excited to serve, and they really appreciate when you invite them for an interview and when you select them to serve with your Vista project. Then, think about what they contemplate on their first day of service. Amidst all of their questions, concerns, nervousness, and sense of uncertainty, they are thrilled that that day one has finally arrived and that they can begin this hopefully incredible year of national service. Well, one thing is for sure, and that is that they will want to feel welcome because no one wants to enter an environment where they are ignored, unappreciated, or just put to the side. Remember that welcoming an AmeriCorps member does not start with their on-site orientation and training, because it starts before that. Showing your excitement starts well before that, which initially starts when you first contact them, which is probably when you reach out to them about an interview after reviewing their application. Take a look at the words and the tone of your email or phone call. Consider your energy during the interview. Review the content and the clarity of the information that you provide them just prior to starting service. All of this, every single element, adds up to showing them how much you appreciate them and are excited for them to serve with your Vista project. From giving them accurate and sufficient information to letting your excitement shine in your communication and more. Welcome is so much more than just a word, as it is a feeling and a real sense of belonging. So do your best to help them feel that. When you or anyone starts a new job, opportunity, or adventure in life, what do you desire? What do you feel is important in order for you to be successful, to feel welcome on the team, and for you to find meaning in what you are doing? My sneaking suspicion is that you would probably mention most, if not all, of the following items that may be in a slightly different order for each person. So first, meaningful work opportunities that connect to a personal mission or feeling. Next, to feel truly needed and really feel that my talents and skills are put to good use. To be valued and appreciated as a person and truly part of the organization and the team. Of course, many people want positive and engaging work, a work culture, and a healthy supportive team dynamic. It makes sense that a lot of people also are looking for good pay and benefits, and there might be many other things that you or others look for. This is not an exhaustive list, and people may rank them in a different order, but it's no surprise that people, including AmeriCorps members and leaders, want to know that they are there for a purpose and not just to fill a position. They want to be part of the team and to be involved, not feel like they are just warming the bench and not meaningfully contributing. They probably don't need you to thank them every 10 seconds because that could be frustrating, but just as I'm sure you know, it feels really good and makes you feel noticed when someone appreciates you. The same, of course, is true of your AmeriCorps members. So don't assume that they know how you feel about them and how much you care about them, because you need to actually show them. So what does it actually mean to appreciate someone or something? There's a general understanding of what this means, and we each have our own personal, additional information and definition as to what that means. So looking at the Merriam-Webster dictionary, they define appreciation as a feeling or expression of admiration, approval, or gratitude. You express your appreciation for something because you are grateful for it. They also define it as judgment evaluation, specifically in terms of a favorable critical estimate. Another definition, sensitive awareness in terms of a recognition of aesthetic values. And then also they mention it's an increase in value as something appreciates over time, just like we and you hope that the value of having your AmeriCorps members increases and appreciates value over time. As you think about that definition and how it applies to appreciating VISTA members and VISTA leaders, let's take a look at just a few simple examples of how you can appreciate them, and hopefully we'll get a lot more examples from you during the small groups. Acknowledging your AmeriCorps members' accomplishments to other staff, board members, and all the people that you can in the community. It seems simple, and I know many of you probably already do this, but it also shows others the progress of your VISTA project and gives others a chance to congratulate and appreciate the AmeriCorps member and even understand what VISTA is. That goes a long way. Also, some people still do this. I know I do, but a lot of people have transitioned to other opportunities. Sending a thank you card, whether it's an in-person or a physical card, via snail mail, or electronically. This gives you an opportunity to personalize the appreciation and write a little bit more detail about why you are thankful for them at your VISTA project and what they bring to your organization. Also, assuming that you have regular meetings with your VISTA members and leaders, use your voice to let them know that you've noticed their work. Even though actions sometimes do speak louder than words, AmeriCorps members are listening and watching, so tell them how proud you are when you can. And then lastly, but not least, whether related to their service or not, try to include AmeriCorps members in community and after-work events. Whether the member is local or moved there for service, they know that there is much more to life than just their year of service, even if they hopefully appreciate what they're doing. Integrating them into the community and inviting them to fun and social gatherings, even virtual ones, can motivate and inspire them. So I'll briefly talk a little bit about my service. Both my VISTA member and my VISTA leader terms of service were meaningful, but I'll speak specifically about when I was a VISTA member in what I call the little state with the big heart, which we know is the state of Rhode Island. I served with Rhode Island Campus Compact and I was placed at Roger Williams University. And when I started, I literally had no idea what I was doing because my orientation was very informative, but I realized I personally had accidentally applied to AmeriCorps VISTA when what I had heard about and thought I was applying to was AmeriCorps State and National. But I owned that and I realized that was my mistake. I couldn't blame anyone else. It was my fault. So what was I gonna do? I had to figure something out. And so amidst my excitement to serve and the frustration that was on my mind because I applied to the wrong program, I craved to figure out what would happen. But thanks to a great VISTA supervisor, one way I felt truly valued was by her having open conversation and enabling me to talk to her about anything, including talking to her about how I applied to the wrong program when I was struggling. But she really meant it. She frequently checked in with me, not just on my work, but to see how I was really doing as a person. She treated me as a real valued asset to the team and someone with opinions and feelings, and that made all the difference for me. And I also greatly appreciated her encouraging me to meet with other staff because I really got to know the organization much better, tell more people about AmeriCorps VISTA, and even connect with people for my own personal and professional development to help me during my year of service and beyond. And then after telling her about some of my challenges, She gave me the flexibility to use my talents and skills and incorporate those into my VISTA assignment description. One really quick example, one of the assignments I had was evaluating an annual project, but I just couldn't understand the instructions she gave me. They were really simple, but I couldn't quite figure out how she wanted me to tally this results and put them together in this diagram that she had put together. So I simply asked her, since I couldn't understand it, if I came up with a different way to do it, would she be okay with that? And she said, sure. So I put together a very simple spreadsheet that ended up being sustainable, simply that you enter the hard copy evaluation data in the spreadsheet and it automatically calculates a grade for each question. So you can immediately look at each question and see you got an 80% or a 90%. Simple, but that's the way my brain worked. She was not only impressed, but she was also happy that I could still get her what she wanted, even if it was in a different format. So I appreciated her flexibility. And the final couple of things I'll mention, on occasion, my supervisor also invited me to enjoy lunch with her typical group, which was a really nice personal touch because again, it's a great way to engage with some of her colleagues and friends, get to know people, and really understand what the organization was all about. Obviously, that may look differently at this time with everyone being virtual, but supervisors can invite AmeriCorps members to virtual gatherings or other events that they may be involved in. In the knowing that I was not from the area because I relocated for service, my supervisor also invited me to some events in the community after hours or on the side, which was great to learn about the culture, the area, and really feel like I fit not just as a VISTA member and with the organization, but with the larger community. So again, this is just a very small portion of my story, but one of the reasons why I thrived and succeeded towards the end of my service was because my supervisor truly showed her appreciation, not just in verbalizing it and recognizing me, but in her flexibility and being open and honest with me. So as you think about the definition of appreciation, I would encourage you to not do these things. One, don't assume that just because you have a good working relationship with your AmeriCorps members, that they automatically know you appreciate them without you saying or doing anything. Also, don't always expect the AmeriCorps member to tell you specifically what would make them feel appreciated. It certainly is a good thing to ask them that early on in their service and write it down, but if you're continuously asking them every month or every week, then it probably feels that you're not listening to them, or they may feel that you don't have any insight of your own and you're just doing things because they told you what they wanted. I would also encourage you to not take the AmeriCorps members' accomplishments for granted, and I doubt any of you do because in the pre-session chat and activity, a lot of you talked about the great things members were doing as well as the way you appreciate them. Certainly they signed up to serve with your organization and they're expected to fulfill the activities on the VAD, but the more support you can give them, the better off they will be and feel. And finally, this is a big one. Do not intentionally or more likely inadvertently ignore your AmeriCorps member. And I quickly mention this because we've had members on occasion at different trainings and webinars and sessions mention that their supervisor is absent or not communicating with them. And although we assume that that's not intentional, that feels like inadvertent ignoring them, and that's not a good thing. We want you to make sure that you are active and proactive in engaging with them and communicating with them. On the flip side, here are just a couple of things we recommend that you do, and these should be pretty obvious. Again, at the top of the list, no surprise, communicate at least weekly, preferably in some type of a meeting. Certainly you may send an inspiring email or a fun and engaging video, or maybe you even send a short text message if people like receiving texts. But especially during this time of not being physically together in many cases, try to connect them in meaningful ways on a weekly basis and let them know that you are there and that you care. And during your regular meetings with members and leaders, actively listen and take notes. Sometimes it can be difficult with so many distractions and things going on, and they may not specifically tell you what makes them feel appreciated, but I'm guessing that you can probably figure some of that out simply based on the way they talk, the questions they ask you, and more. Also, a few other things to implement that are relatively easy and simple include having you reflect on how you like to be appreciated. Don't think just surface level, but what really motivates you and gets you going. Sure, that may not be the exact same thing that gets your members going, but a lot of it I'm guessing is pretty similar. And some of those ideas can help you be creative in thanking your members and leaders. And also, don't see this as a chore, but do look at this as a fun activity. Hopefully you're appreciating them and engaging them and motivating them is not just fun for them, but it's a fun activity for you. Because if you don't have fun with it and show your excitement, it'll be much more difficult for your members to feel excited. Be sure to celebrate their awesomeness, their uniqueness, and their gift to your Vista project of being an amazing addition to your team. We'll talk about a few things together in relation to appreciating your members, and we'll first start by briefly discussing why an AmeriCorps Vista year of service can be challenging for some. I invite you to take a look at the challenges on the screen and think of possible solutions to overcome some of these challenges. Remember that we're doing this with the focus of appreciation of our members and leaders. And in the chat panel, go ahead and type the number of the question or the number of the challenge you're looking at, and then your solution. For example, if you want to focus on number 3, which is not integrating with staff or team, in the chat, you can type the number 3 and then your proposed solution to solve that problem. And you can answer as few or as many as you wish, but this is a way to really understand more thoughts around many of the common challenges we've heard from Vista members and how you as supervisors and people on the session will be able to respond to those challenges. And as you do that now, I'll quickly say, certainly if we really wanted to, we could have put a lot more ideas on the screen because there are a lot of challenges, but there's also a lot of positives and wonderful things going on. We know that there are and can be so many possible obstacles and hurdles during a one-year term of service. And for those of you who are recruiting or will have to recruit, you may want to let your applicants know that it'll likely be a challenging year, but hopefully a very meaningful and rewarding one. Our discussion now, as well as your conversation with potential applicants and current members, is not meant to dwell on the challenges, but to recognize that they do exist and to explore some of them and look at how they can become solutions. So in looking at a couple of the responses, I see in response to the challenge number 1, the service year is short and not a lot of time to accomplish much. One solution is to communicate with your Vistas about previous year's accomplishments and longer term goals to really help them feel part of a bigger picture. That's key, and I appreciate that response because they need to understand the bigger picture to understand how they fit into the Vista project. Also for number 1, include small projects that can be accomplished quickly. Another great idea because sometimes looking at the entire Vista assignment description all at once is daunting and overwhelming. But if you can show them specific things they've accomplished in small chunks, they can see the achievements over time. And I'll just mention a couple of others. Number 3, the challenge is not integrated with staff or team. A few ideas that were mentioned. Invite the Vista to staff meetings and encourage them to do some informational interviews with the rest of the staff or team. That gives them a chance to really get to know each person and see if there's anything that they bond with or that they have the same ideas and can feel connected with other people. Also with number 3, include Vista in staff retreats, weekly staff meetings, and include in staff luncheons. And again, that's such a critical piece of connecting with the team. Obviously letting the staff know they're not an official staff member, but they want to be integrated with the team and really feel like they're there to make a difference as a Vista member and as a person. And the last comment on number 4 and 5, it takes time to get started and time to transition at the end of service. And sometimes Vistas are uncertain of their overall project goal. One suggestion is to implement a comprehensive onboarding and orientation, or what we call the OSOT, the on-site orientation and training. Because again, the more comprehensive and detailed you can make that, it'll help them understand the overall project goal. It'll help them understand how to get started and how the start relates to what they're going to be doing during their year of service and towards the end of their service. And whether you are the direct supervisor of a member or just someone who assists with the Vista project, we want you to use this discussion to help you identify challenges that members face and mention during meetings, because you and your project probably know some of the other challenges that your members face that are not on the screen. But doing an activity like this with us or with other project members at your site can really help you assess those challenges and how to overcome them and really appreciate your members. And while you think of solutions, encourage your members and your leaders to show appreciation for themselves and be strong advocates for what they think by asking them to come up with proposed solutions as well. It doesn't matter if the idea is absurd or ridiculous. You and they should write it down because you can then brainstorm and go through each one and see if any or all of it could be a possibility. Part of you showing your AmeriCorps members you care is not doing everything for them, but giving them a voice and the power to think for themselves and how to solve some of their own problems. Let me ask you one more question. As you think about the members your project has or currently will have, or some of you may not have vistas yet but will have, why do your members stay with your project? Have you ever asked them or gotten that feedback? We know that some AmeriCorps members and leaders do early terminate, unfortunately, for various reasons, such as medical reasons, maybe they found a job, maybe they're dissatisfied with the program, etc. But if you have ever asked your members, or if they randomly told you, what are some reasons that they do decide to finish out their year of service with your project? And if you don't know, or if you don't have vistas yet, you can answer the question as to what are some reasons why an AmeriCorps member would be retained and finish out their year of service. As you type your responses in the chat panel, I do want you to see how you can use this question and the responses at your specific project. Every comment may not apply to your project, but you can adapt ideas and suggestions to come up with a plan to help retain your members, showing them that you care. So I see a couple of responses coming in, and one of my favorites, although I love all of them, is they believe in the mission. When people believe in the mission and can get behind it and really tie the mission into their own personal mission, that is huge. Also, another comment about the mission, they have an emotional and personal connection to the organization. Flexibility, absolutely. They feel appreciated and that they believe in the work that they're doing for their VISTA project and the community. The ability to grow professionally with kind people while doing valuable work that improves quality of life for many people. And that goes a long way because a lot of vistas that talk to us about their service at the beginning and the end talk about they want to fulfill their VISTA assignment description, but they also want to grow personally and professionally to help this year help them as well. And then of course, professional development for the experience that they gain, contacts they make, and the opportunity to transition into full-time positions here and at partner organizations. Keep those comments coming because those are great, and that's giving me a lot of ideas for future options as well. And you can also think about it from a different angle. What, if anything, does your VISTA project intentionally do specifically to retain its members? Some AmeriCorps members and leaders make it work for themselves. They're proactive. They flourish on their own without needing much assistance at all. Others do not. Regardless, don't miss the opportunity to appreciate them that could make or break their service. Understanding some of these open-ended questions really sets you and your VISTA project up for success to think about how to sustain more motivated members. At this point, we're going to pause the recording. With much of the knowledge, information, and ideas that you now have from your groups, from the large session, from everything, we're going to offer you a couple of tips and resources. And if you happen to have any websites that you use, templates, or links to other resources, please go ahead and share those in the chat. That way other people can participate and learn from what you have as well. Really quickly, here are some tips for success. First, smile. Whether you're in a meeting with your AmeriCorps members in person or virtually, don't frown. It takes the mood down. Smile, pay attention, be engaging, and look interested. Second, verbalize and communicate your thoughts. We talked about this earlier. Don't leave your members to guess what you are thinking. Third, ask questions of your members, early in their service, middle of the service, etc. If you really want to get to know more about them and learn about how you can help them succeed, it's important to ask. Fourth, acknowledge achievements and accomplishments, which you can do directly for the member. You can do to board and community members and other organizational staff to let them know about the success of your VISTA members and leaders. And then last, but certainly not least, be creative and innovative in your thinking. You don't have to settle for what's always been done, but if that works, great. Consider trying new things, including utilizing some of the ideas from the chat and in today's session that people are posting now. As a reminder, you can access the Helpful Links handout, which is a link to resources on the VISTA campus that are tied to this topic. It was developed to provide you resources and materials that will help you plan, execute, and reflect on different things, including on other ways you can appreciate your members. So in looking at today's agenda, just as a reminder, we covered a brief welcome to AmeriCorps Vista. We talked about the definition of appreciation, some challenges and possible solutions. We then had small group conversations to allow each group to talk about other ways they appreciate members and leaders. We just discovered some tips and recommendations and resources. And now we're going to ask you to complete a short evaluation. So in a minute, you'll see in the chat a link to an evaluation, and we strongly encourage you to do this because many of our webinar topics are taken from ideas and suggestions that you and other supervisors have. I should say I, because I'm the one who does it. I do read every single evaluation, all the positive, challenging, constructive criticism comments, because we want to improve these and make these useful for you. So again, please take a minute. It takes 3 or 4 minutes to fill it out, and be honest in your feedback. We greatly appreciate it. Our next webinar is Tuesday, December 15th at 2 o'clock Eastern, the normal time for these supervisor sessions, and it's titled Being an Effective AmeriCorps Vista Sub-Site Supervisor. This session is a little bit different from the one in November because this session is specifically targeted for sub-site supervisors themselves. If you're a sub-site supervisor that's part of an intermediary project, or even if you're just a supervisor as part of a single site, you may find the information useful. We'll be talking briefly about things you might need to know as to how to make your role effective as a sub-site supervisor, communicating with your intermediary and your project supervisor. So feel free to click the link to join or pass it on to others who may find it useful. With the limited time we have left, I'm checking the chat to see if there's any questions. I'll quickly say if there are questions and I didn't see them, please repost them in the chat now. I will also say if we don't have time in the next 2 minutes to answer all the questions, because we wanted to make sure to give time for the breakouts after this session. Again, if you don't have your question answered, you can certainly email me, Eric Powell, and I will do my best to get back to you. I'll post my email in the chat. As a quick reminder, as I wait to see if there's any questions, if you were the one taking notes for the group, please, if possible, email me tomorrow or Thursday with your notes so I can work on compiling them and sending them all out. And I did post my email in the chat. Again, if you have questions, feel free to email me. Again, this is Eric Powell. And while I wait to see if there's questions, let's go to the final slide because I don't see any questions now. So I want to personally and professionally thank you. I know this session was about appreciating members and leaders, but on behalf of the entire AmeriCorps organization, on behalf of the VISTA program and the training unit that I'm in, we really want to let you know how much we appreciate you. I know you do tireless and difficult work, time consuming, and it's not easy. But just know on a personal and professional note, we greatly appreciate all the stuff you do behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, everywhere. Our VISTA program and your VISTA projects could not exist without the work that you do. So know that we truly appreciate you. We thank you for all that you do. I want to thank Barbara Reynolds, who's my constant editor and support team on these sessions. I want to thank Mike Dietz and Colby Wilson for their work in helping to manage the Zoom technology. I want to thank Chris Hawks and Andy King, my other VISTA training colleagues, for other support they gave to this webinar, this session. And again, thank you for everything you do. Happy holidays. This concludes today's session. Have a great day.